Come on. All right, everybody. We have Dr. Tim Schrijver, former Olympian at the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Games, Olympic rowing in the men's 4. I got that right?
That is correct, yes.
That is correct. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. You are the founder of Wellzine out in California, Southern California, right? Where are you guys located at? Just so people can know right away.
We're currently off of 17th Street and Newport Boulevard in Costa Mesa, California. So right by Newport, the border there. So it's a beautiful location.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. No big deal. Just right in like one of the best parts of Southern California. No big whoop.
Yeah. Definitely blessed to be there.
That's why you got that California tan going on in the summertime.
That's right. Try to make the most of being down here, if we have to.
Yeah.
I guess I'll run by the beach. Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. That's funny, brother.
Yeah.
Well, nice. Thanks for joining us today. I mean, hey, we can talk about so many incredible things. I mean, we've known each other since, just at the tail end of your school, right? When you were working with Dr. Douglas D. Siena, for any of you SoCal people who know.
Yeah, that's right. Beginning of 2024. It was a big year.
Yeah, exactly. And through...
it's been nice knowing you for sure.
Yeah, totally. We've been growing together. Dr. Schrijver's leading the way, though, out there in Southern California. That is for sure. So, well, first, dude, hey, I mean, I'd love to get into, some things that we talked about earlier, mindset. You have a very unique story about determination and consistency with being an Olympian as well. You bring that same fire since your childhood, because I know a little bit about you. You've been working hard since your father and your siblings, you guys were all working on a farm, working pretty hard.
The formidable years.
The formidable years. They set you up for success in life, and you're bringing that same fire and energy into the chiropractic profession. I know that you got functional medicine that you're working on. I mean, you work closely with Dr. Doug. I mean, he did some functional medicine stuff. I mean, you're working with Fred DiDomenico. You got your communication down. You're a very spiritual human being, super loving, incredible husband, maybe soon to be father in some time. Maybe, I don't know if that's
be a great future. Yes.
You got an incredible future, dude. So, I mean, I know you mentioned a couple things that you wanted to start with, but or you wanted to talk about, but what would you like to start with?
Again, we can start from the start, talk about, it's my wife in the back. Mrs. Schrijver. I grew up on a dairy farm, and really, I think part of anyone's beginnings doesn't need to have the impact of like chaining them down to what happens in the future, but also I like to think that where you grow up can have an impact, whether either for doing exactly that with regards to discipline that gets formed, or wanting to do the opposite for, say, somebody that maybe has a more traumatic background. But for me, I would say really the actual growing up with 3 brothers on a dairy farm made, I guess, work ethic and the competitiveness of like the environment of having brothers. I was smack dab in the middle, I guess the middle child moving away to California, poor me, from the storms, the winter storms in Canada. No, they were in a great area in Canada too. But that really taught me discipline. So that was something I guess that came naturally and really pushed me into the sport that I got into. I'm not quite touching the ceiling here. I know it looks like it, but I am quite a tall guy. So really the right sport for my mentality, the mindset I guess I had, and my height, that was something great. And then when that moved from, rowing to what am I going to do afterwards? Well, I got blessed with a bunch of injuries during my younger years too. I had a trampoline accident where I had fractured my low back, unbeknownst to me till years
Damn.
later, when a chiropractor took an X-ray of my low back and said, "Hey, just so you know, you fractured both sides of the pars. It's shifted out of place, and that's why you've been having chronic low back pain, shocking sensations down your legs, every once in a while having massive back spasms." The first one happened a day after the initial incident, and I had a crazy spasm. My mom brought me to a chiropractor who helped me move around, but in Canada and small town, there was no X-rays involved until I was a sport varsity athlete, had done my first under 23 world championships in Lithuania, came back and was like debilitating pain. So I know I'm bouncing around here, but these things were all, I guess, formidable for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, what happened on the trampoline that in what part of you landed? Did you like land on the rail?
So no, I was doing backflips. So land on my stomach and do a backflip. We had some balls playing with brothers, and there's a ball that landed on my chest. It extended me back. I heard a pop, a click back then, but I didn't think I would, fracture something. My back hurt, but the next day it was like spasmed up. I couldn't move. I'm looking up at the sky at recess in elementary school. And my mom had to get called because everyone goes inside for recess. I'm not one to just skip class. They find me outside, and I'm like, I can't move right now. What's going on? They called my mom, and she brought me to the chiropractor. And he was like, "Oh, you're very tall." It was around grade 6. I'm already 6 foot tall in grade 6.
Wow.
So I did most of my growing in elementary and middle school, I guess.
Wow.
So they're like, "Oh, it's probably growing pains." I don't even recall talking about the trampoline to the chiropractor at the time. So we're looking at my feet. You're talking about core exercises that I started doing a bunch. I know he got me in touch with a high school kid. He's older than me, that he had back pain too. And I think this chiropractor had worked with him, and he's like, "I'm gonna have him come hang out with you," because he's doing some like hours in the elementary school setting. So I remember he brought me to the gym. We like one-on-one did some core exercises together to try to like help me out. So I got a lot of love from that, which was cool. But then obviously something that you understand, and the reason why I guess I went a step or two further in chiropractic with chiropractic biophysics was, it was not until somebody really analyzed X-rays to look instead of feel about what specifically was going on,
right,
that I really made huge progress and went from, my first under 23 worlds doing quite well, strong, a year and a half into rowing for the first time. When I went to university, being able to compete internationally was great. I actually got invited out like less than a year in, but I didn't think I was ready to compete yet at that point. But that set me up for the best year ever. I did about a year. I was out of the boat for like 11 months and then was back the next varsity season. And the year after that, we won world championships, our 23 world champs and national champs. And my VO2 max was insane, and all this stuff from the working for a good 6-month stint with this chiropractor who did corrective care after doing some x-rays with me. So thank God for this Groupon that I found, this chiropractor had a Groupon for an initial exam and x-ray, and then convinced me at his workshop to come and do like a few months of care, and I had to pay up front. And I was like, whoa, but I'm like, well, my back sucks, and it has for years, growing up at the farm, throwing tires around, hay bales, and picking up calves and pushing, like moving and all sorts of stuff. My back always just hurt. And I was like, oh, quality of life is low. So that's why I guess I myself am very in tune with, hey, I think it's pretty cool if you can increase people's quality of life for a living. And one of the ways you can do that is by removing, the pain that somebody has been experiencing or dysfunction, and better off. And as we know in chiropractic, both. Yeah.
It's true. How long was it? I mean, you said 6th grade. And how many years was it until you saw that Groupon, the chiropractor with the Groupon?
Yeah, so it was second year of university. So what is that? 7 years after the fact, I believe it was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that I had my first X-ray, and at that point, my the curve of my lumbar spine. We know that there's an ideal, and the more that you're away from ideal, the more stress you're putting on not just the spine and the associated structures of the spine, the discs, the facet joints, etc., but like the nerves. So it's like, oh, the shock down my legs, my right leg, I would have all these injuries and imbalances. But anyways, I like had a 72-degree curve. It should be around 40. So I had a massive lumbar lordosis, a spondy, so a shift out of place, and already some degeneration at 20 years old. So
Yeah. Well, so
wasn't the
what did
most
that mean
fun.
for like you were a super high level athlete, and then you're mentioned that like you're doing these rowing competitions, but after the competitions you would feel like you couldn't move, or what happened with that before?
So I would experience big back pain. So I would do like a big heroic effort. I felt invincible on some of these erg pieces, and my mentality was like, I'm not afraid of the pain.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, depending on how long we chat today, it's like it's interesting how mindset. I talk with Fred DiDomenico about this. He's like, get the Olympian Tim going. I did
Yeah.
also experience from being invincible, like, hey, put me in stroke seat on port side of any boat. I feel like I'm going to win any against anybody, to experiencing challenges where, you shift sides and things just don't feel the same. And you feel like, oh, am I getting listened to or not? But then whatever. That's like it's a funny thing to think back on, because that a day to day, all that matters is the day, and I think there's definitely strength in focusing on the day versus the future, but also how you future pace yourself is important.
Huh.
But anyways, yeah, with the injury, how I was performing at a really high level still despite the pain. I know I would do things like the acupressure mat, and I still use those, but I know it's not fixing my spine. It helps to get the muscles to chill out. If I lay on this acupressure mat, cheap, you get them on Amazon sort of thing, and I would lay on it, but I would just kind of rely on it multiple times a day to just
Yeah.
get some pressure, to get the blood flow going without having to move, stretching my hips out all the time. But none of those things really, I guess, made sense. I'm very mechanically minded, and the mechanisms of some of those things made sense for being like, hey, we're going to release the muscle tension that's contributing. But once somebody taught me, and it was further than I wish I had to go, or longer than I wish it had to take for me to really understand. And I am going to take extreme accountability. I might have been told it 15 times before I'd actually went into my
But you were
So,
dialed in, bro. You haven't focused on being an Olympian. I mean, or at least
yeah,
getting into your national competitions and stuff like that, right? I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. Is you're just like, you didn't care about the pain.
yeah, didn't care
Yeah.
about the pain. It was getting in the way of doing what I knew I need to do to get faster and stronger and achieve the performance I wanted to. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, I learned so much from it. I remember this in chiropractic college. Um, when I went back to school after doing 6 years on the national team, it was like, okay, I have to go back to a school setting. And I always just, it's easy when you look back, but I always wanted to just be above average in school,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
didn't like care to ace any classes. It wasn't on my radar to do.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
knew I needed a new goal. I don't know if I'm setting the wrong stage here chatting about this, but I needed a new goal
No,
after
no,
the
it's fine.
Olympics. I was like, hey, I achieved some of the stuff, didn't achieve some of the other things, but lessons have been learned. This is great. COVID happened, and I'm on to the next things. The body's just not going to handle rowing. And my bank account's also going to be a struggle forever if I'm an athlete. So let's try to help other people out. So back to school for me. When I did so, I knew the importance at that point, because when we won under 23 Worlds, I wrote it down in my journal over a year before I was going to win. So we're going to win. we make it happen, and you start to do the things that make it happen too. So when I started chiropractic college, I was like, hey, I never tried that hard in school, but why not? First week of school, they talk about there's a valedictorian. And I was like, that's a good goal. I should try to be the valedictorian. If I'm going to do school anyways, like I might as well do it at a high standard. And same thing I want for my practice now that I'm out of school. Long story short, you write that goal down and it happens. So I was fortunate, I guess, to have many experiences, working on the farm where the amount of work that you put in, you reap the benefits of that. I really liked, like, whether it was finishing a chore, like doing the stalls, or we'd have a lot of construction projects. My parents immigrated from Holland to Canada, and they bought an old farm, and they were constantly renovating it as they could continue to put into their business. And my dad took me along for a ride with a lot of those construction projects, because I think he knew, he's like, Tim's not like in love with farming. But one thing I liked about it was there's a lot of variety in the different things you're doing, especially when you are farming the way that I guess they did, where you wouldn't hire we didn't have a bunch of hired hands. It was 4 boys, get on the farm, help with stuff. And then when you're doing construction projects, I could help out with that. And it was really cool when one of those buildings would be complete, being like, I was part of that. That was amazing. So, and like Dad reminded us all the time, get out from the stupid box, watching the TV or being on the computer too much. So I feel fortunate that, I guess, growing up in the 90s or 2000s, that we didn't get thrown an iPad in our face like you see nowadays. So it's almost like easier to say, we can't versus we won't for our kids. So they were just like, we need the boys to help out right now. So we learned to do it and have some fun with it, and also learn some stuff you don't want to do, and all that jazz that I guess helps to form, hey, what's life going to look like afterwards? But one of the big things was I knew that it was going to require some hard work, and it was cool. My dad would always say at the end of the day, did you learn something? And yeah, I learned something. So that's something that I guess is ingrained in you. So I'm glad for that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, for real. It's awesome that in many aspects of your life, you strive for excellence. You know what I mean? There's so many stories of Olympians, astronauts, people who are at the highest levels of whatever their niche is, that athletes, businessmen who sell their companies or whatever it is. And then they reach this like peak of something that they've dedicated a significant portion of their life to achieving. And then they reach that goal. And then it's like, as you're saying, okay, well, I wanted to have a certain lifestyle. And you realize that being a professional rower if you wanted to live the lifestyle, you'd have to either row plus something else or just create a new purpose for yourself, So
I know I used to say it's like, oh, rowing's like a selfish endeavor. It's kind of like you're trying to compete for something, but who's going to pay for you to keep playing for the rest of your life? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, hold on one sec. I'm going to turn this light on really quick.
Sounds good.
That's better. I can see a little bit. Yeah. All right. So then I'd love to talk about this transition into school. What was the feeling like? If you wouldn't mind just going deeper into this feeling, like, man, okay, you wanted to figure something else out. You saw the valedictorian, you figured out what that was. You became the valedictorian of your class?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So in school, to be the valedictorian, like, what was your day-to-day life like?
So I started school during COVID time, and it was, I guess, about trying to digest the material. Something I learned in sport was it's not about hours of practice. It's like, which you would have tons of hours of practice too, but deliberate practice. So I'm not just trying to read the textbook. So I would figure out the best way that I digested material in a way that it would then make sense to me. And then I would go bug somebody about what I learned, which talk to my parents, talk to friends, whatever it was about what I would learn that day, and just be fascinated by it. Because I'll step back when I was a college athlete at university at Brock University in St. Catharines, Canada. Um, I we would get a pretty easy level of, hey, you get it over 70%, we'll give you some money. Um, and my varsity coach was like, hey, Tim, you just missed out on getting like some money this year. What the heck? Like, you're here for school too. You're a rower and school. So I appreciated that. Head coach was awesome for those things. He gave some great life advice. But I was like, oh yeah, I'm just not like, didn't care that much about it. But then I guess got in tune with the idea that some of these classes where I felt like I had to take them, there's a reason why somebody was teaching them and they were passionate about it. So I just need to find passion in the things that I'm learning. And that really, I guess, moved into more areas of life. So I like to hear people's thoughts about things more than just like what's going on, I guess, like, oh yeah, I went shopping, something like that. But like if you're in class, somebody's talking about something, you get to think about it. So I changed my mindset there. And then when I went back to school, because it was like last year's, hey, you're on the Dean's Honors List. Great. Awesome. Like school's easier when you care about it. And then guess I took it to the next step where I was like, okay, now I understand some different pathways to not just be like, well, try to find the fascinating part about it. Because you would see, I would turn on, a lot of the classes would be on Zoom, and then we would have our hands-on ones where obviously we're in the classroom, but the first term was all online. And I'm like, accountability, I'm turning on my camera. And then, once we're on campus the next semester, people are like, hey, Tim. And I don't know who anybody is, their names, because everyone had their cameras off all the time. But if I turn a camera off, it's a lot easier for me to get distracted. And then I also would get called on and feel okay to ask questions all the time, because not everyone learns the same. So I think it's okay if you don't understand something. It's better to get ahead of that. And most likely somebody else has a question too. So I think I got a tremendous amount out of school, and probably just having a little bit more life experience versus some of my other classmates where, I'm sure they're going to do amazing things too. And some of them already are. But that was a way that I guess worked for me. So not a way that has to work for everyone, but hey, what are ways to stay accountable? But I also knew that the importance of sleep. So I was in Ontario, Canada, so on, I guess, East Coast time, so 3 hours ahead. So I would wake up in the morning, do a workout, do like a cold plunge, have my food, a good breakfast, sit down and be ready for class, and then do some studying until an appropriate amount of time. So I would study every day, but I would always get 8 hours of sleep. I was religious about it. I was like, I know my brain, I'm going to fall asleep in front of class. And I would see that happening too for people because they were studying so hard. But I'm like, oh, but you're spending all these hours, but you're not deliberate in practice. Like I've been so tired where you're like, I have to read something 17 times. And I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Your brain's done.
Yeah.
Your brain's done. Go to bed, Yeah. So I think I had some of those things where I would do, like if I could get out in the middle of the day and the end of the day for a little walk outside. It was, I just made some parameters that I knew worked for me. Pomodoro, I learned about that in school, and that helped too. Because I'm like, I can't pay attention for 3 hours straight. 20 minutes on, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. That was also good. Do some movement, do some push-ups or something. That all helped. Yeah.
Nice. Well, there you go. So what about like when you were in school? So were you involved in any other sports, or you were just like, was school your main focus, or were you able to be valedictorian as well as like have other things that were going on outside?
So I worked as a tutor, which was not that many hours. That was fine. And I did lift weights, so I went to the gym, but I definitely said no to a few more of the socializing events than um, maybe was normal, because I felt like, oh, it's something I need to do to stay on top of things. I got into church when I came to California. So I grew up Catholic, and then my roommate invited me to his Christian church in Whittier, California, and I joined him. I first lived in no, and then joined him, and it was awesome. So Sundays I would definitely spend some time at church, which I loved, and um, I guess I stayed away from too many like vices or what, but I also see the benefit. Like, not everyone has to live the same life that I do, and some people benefit a lot about who they know. And sometimes when you're socializing, you get this idea flow going, and not everyone has to have the academics where, especially in chiropractic or any field, there's a specialist you can refer to, and maybe you're out socializing and meet the right referral where you start to have a referral network with some sort of specialist. If you want, like, I don't want to do functional medicine, and I'm going to send people to a GI, a gastroenterologist, and I met them at a bar. I don't know, when they were in school too. And now, amazing, your patients benefit from that too, because you've been a social person. So knowing strengths, because I think the worst thing is for somebody to try to replicate somebody else outside of maybe trialing something.
Yeah.
That is like, oh yeah, I think everyone should trial being a stickler on it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can steal that one, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can always trial things and see what works and helps with your own productivity, or what helps get your passion and purpose out there better. So,
yeah. What would you say your biggest challenge going through school was?
Well, I think like one part of it was moving to California from Canada. I'm in America now, and it's like it was COVID times, so trying to make I had a study group and everything, so I actually got pretty fortunate in meeting some cool people. But like, I felt like you also are stepping back, so you go from kind of being in the top playing field in sport. And my dad used to say, his parents used to say, it's like, oh, you're living like the La La Land of rowing kind of idea. They didn't say La La Land, but it's like welcome to the real world, when you come out of it. But then you get into a pocket of being a student, and that's its own little world. And then you get into chiropractic, you're on your own little world. Some people try to play in the whole world, and that's intense. That's like anxiety driving, for sure. You got to control your controllables. But I did have to step back into a more novice role again to be a student, and then shadow at certain docs' offices. And then you feel like, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the first time you learn something, you feel like you're on top of it, and you start giving people advice about things. And then, next semester you learn something new, and you're like, oh shoot, maybe that wasn't the advice I would have given had I known what I know now. And then now, knowing what I know again, you start to observe that Dunning-Kruger. So I would be at docs' offices assuming I knew best for patients, when I'm like shadowing somebody that's been in practice for 20, 30, 40 years. And you're like, what am I thinking? Get the most benefit, but always learning. I love learning. Dad said, learn something every day. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Okay. So now, taking this mindset that you have, you've accomplished at this point in the timeline of your story. You're at chiropractic school. You're about to go do your peak, and like, what was the decision to stay in California afterwards?
Okay, so I met my lovely wife at church. Friends Orange. Saw her. I was running out of the noon service for a online class that I was a part of, so I wanted to get my church in on Sunday and then get back into it. saw her. She's like, she's beautiful. And I just felt something about her. And the next Sunday, started hanging out. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can stay in California. I thought I wasn't, I would head back to Canada, either like Vancouver Island or where my family's at in Ontario. But that definitely meant something to me. Her being her, and starting to get the right mentor. So I was working, like we said earlier, at Dr. Douglas DeSienna's office, and some of the patients and just people around here are just like amazing. And yeah, it's, I guess, whatever color glasses you want to wear, but like Caitlin, my wife, taught me a lot about, God and just life. And she's so bubbly and personable. And I was like, oh, I could see us starting a life together down here. I mean, the weather's great. You can't beat it. And yeah, the whole goal, I guess, of like developing something down here. Also, you can move if that's a thing that you want to do. Nothing has to be permanent in life.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of like, we have a life that we're creating together, so it's like you have the person, you're going to go through those things. But I love California. I'm not saying I'm going to leave California, but it doesn't mean, regardless of what happens, everything can be as temporary or permanent as you want it to be. So
Yeah.
I'm loving the idea that we decided to stick around here and set up shop and open an office and try to make something of it and learn lessons every day.
Yeah, man. I mean, that goes hand in hand with what you said at the beginning of the podcast, that, like where you started in life doesn't have to have any bearing on the rest of it.
Yeah.
You can start in the craziest places and end up somewhere else. I recently have created a new course, and on the first day, there's this story. I may be switching the initials of this woman's name, but it's Madam CJ Walker or MJ Walker, something like that. She lived in the 1800s, early 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And the story goes that she was the first born out of slavery. She's a black woman. And her parents died when she was 7. She was married at 14. And then by 20, her husband had passed away. And she used to just like wash clothes for a penny each for people. That was like her job. And through all of this, she started to get stressed and her hair started falling out. And so she decided to like sit at her kitchen table and like get a remedy to help her hair be healthy and strong. And she created this product and then started going door to door and selling it in the 1850s and became the first female self-made millionaire in America. In a time where in American history, this is, women had no rights, and she was also black. So she, they looked down on her as a woman, and because she was black, but she was able to have like the biggest cosmetic company in the 1850s, and in a time where that would statistically was just not possible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I love that story because it just, for me, shows that there's no excuse to our ability to create the life that we want. If we're able to serve people, for her, she just was, she was serving women whose hair's falling out and they wanted to be pretty. And she made no excuses. In a time where white men were ruling the whole world, she was able to become a millionaire. And I mean, I don't know what the conversion of that would be today, but I'm sure it would be, way, way more. So it's cool. So I appreciate the fact that relating this story back to yourself is that I just liked how you're saying, no matter what, you're able to create the life that you want, is basically what you're saying. Hey, I wanted to stay here in California. I met my beautiful wife, Caitlin, and she just has inspired me to be a better man. I want to be a leader and spiritual leader of this household. So I love the beach, but hey, if we want to leave, then, I'll take the reins and we'll go somewhere else,
See what God has in store for us, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of faith and just kind of knowing you have to. Easier said than done. I haven't perfected this and sorted out how to have everything all the time, but it is nice, especially chatting with you and the questions you ask, to reflect and be like, well, if you make a goal, then there's a much bigger chance that you move in the right direction there, right? I'm
Yeah.
really curious what Madame Walker.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
CJ Walker
Okay.
there's
But
two letters, but Walker. Yeah.
okay.
Walker.
Yeah. What did she maybe do day to day that made help that her achieve that goal? Who did she meet? All those things are, I think, fascinating
I know.
as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
what were the biggest? What were, if you could ask her, if you could have her on your podcast here, what would you have
Yeah.
asked her? Back in the day,
Totally.
and what would you? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, hey, if I had her on the podcast, the first question that comes to mind is like, at what point did you understand like your vision, or was it just the fact that she goes, you know what, I felt so bad about my hair falling out that I just wanted to provide this solution to people, and it just so happened that everybody wanted that solution? Or was it like she faced so much turmoil that maybe she was driven by pain or suffering?
yeah.
Was
I
it the
guess,
fact?
yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, yeah, I guess like for myself, it looks like in a similar fashion to why I do what I do with trying to improve people's quality of life through chiropractic, functional medicine. That she had a problem and she got to be authentic about, hey, I have a solution. I get to share it with other people. She probably didn't have to be. She could have been the worst salesperson in the world and been able to get people to buy into that, right? Like, it's not
Yeah,
being
right.
a
It's like
salesman, it's
the
about believing
results.
in the product.
Yeah,
She knows the
yeah,
results are there. It's going to spread like
yeah,
wildfire, which is what I guess I assume most people in life would strive for. And then, myself, I feel blessed in the fact that I feel like I'm in the place that I get to work with people on something that I believe and trust and have seen work time and time again.
yeah,
So it's more, I guess, about staying authentic. I think that's maybe one of the better compliments you get. I'm not a social media mogul or anything like that, but I try my hand at making some content from time to time.
yeah,
And I recall one of my patients saying, and multiple of them saying, he's like, your stuff is so authentically you. I think that's great. You meet you, and it's the same as you online. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know how to act, so
yeah, yeah. I live in California, but I'm just saying, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I only got the one me. So some people give me a hard time. I got a buddy of mine does some wrestling stuff, and he's great at acting and putting on a show and entertaining people. And I was like, I just got one, Tim.
Yeah.
But then there is the high energy self where you got to bring that out too. You can be mopey and you can pray for the best energy for the day and make it happen. And it's amazing what a day is like when you bring that high energy from the start. Versus when it gets taken away from you. And my brother had shared that. My brother Eric had shared something because a lot of stuff happens. He started a new farm up, took over a farm, and there was a lot of like crap going on and needed to do some renovations, and everything goes wrong at the same time. But he still has a smile on for some reason. You'll call him in the middle of like a time where he's like, I haven't slept in 3 days, because all this stuff's happening. And he was driving me to the airport once when I was leaving to go back to California. And I kind of asked him about it. I'm like, hey, like, what's up with, how do you stay so positive? And he said, well, when I was at school, one of my professors had shared, the story was like a professor had shared with him how there's, I should know, I should have practiced my math before. There's 18,000 seconds in a day. So say if you have $18,000, Dalton, if somebody takes $1 from you, are you going to spend $17,999? I know my math is wrong. How many seconds? But
Yeah.
getting that dollar back, or just let it go. And then he's like, same thing with your time. If somebody flips you off, has a limiting belief and says something, and you're going to spend the rest of the time trying to like make them like you, or are you going to move forward and be like, hey, it's not the time for that. So I thought that was cool. Shout out to Eric sharing that one for me.
Yeah.
I've imparted that, I guess, on a couple patients when I've talked to them too. So yeah, it's good.
What was the example where you imparted that on a patient? What was going on in their life, and you're just like, hey man, it's no big deal?
Yeah, so maybe I talk too much to my patients now. But like, it feels like friends, you know. It's like that was something I love that Douglas D. Sienna, for jumping into an example. Dr. D said with patients that he's got to be able to love somebody, and they got to be able to love him for them to be a patient of his. And sure, there can be a thing where it's like, you know, he's taking care of people as people versus a diagnosis. Sometimes a diagnosis needs a diagnostician, let's say. But the beautiful thing about private practice is you can sort of choose how you, what your alignment is for. And he's like, yeah, it's the love of the people. So anyways, chatting with somebody who just had a lot of the people down in this area, like anywhere, you know, business owners of sorts, and going through a struggle, sharing their struggle. And they're like almost asking advice about it, shared that story. And they're like, I like that. I'm going to kind of forget about this one because it's too small for me to keep putting my energy towards. You're like, oh, great. Yeah. I don't know. Are you trying to get me to break HIPAA compliance or something?
Yeah, exactly. What was their name? What was their birthday?
Social security number, please.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, read it right across the bottom.
Yeah. There's like on the news, is that what you're talking about? Like,
yeah. Right up here's the credit card. No.
Yeah.
Did I pass the test? I think I did it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. All right, that's it. No more podcast. You passed. Yeah.
What other stories and numbers do you have for me?
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, I'm curious. We're talking about this part of your life where you're going, hey, what was going on in your mind when you were watching your brother handle this situation? Because obviously you admire him. You asked him what it was, that how can he stay so positive? Were you thinking of a part of your life where you're like, man, I feel stressed, and you're looking at his life and you're like, man, that could be, somehow you're relating it? Was there something going on that it really just stood out to you?
I honestly don't recall if I had a certain situation, but I remember multiple times talking to my other brothers and my mom and my dad about Eric, and they would be like, man, I don't know how he stays so positive. And I was leaving Canada, like visiting at home there. This is a couple of years ago. And he was like, I'll drive you. And I decided to ask him about it because multiple times people would, I guess, compliment Eric about that. And I know it's a funny thing in probably most families that unless you're intentional about it, all the compliments you receive are between other people versus to you. So I was like, I don't know how much that Eric actually gets told, and that he's crushing it, that people admire that in him versus being like, oh shoot, here's a piece of advice. Because we are, I'd say for the most part, a little bit more critical. So if something gets done right, like on to the next thing. I'm terrible at celebrating victories, which is something I need to do better. And my wife reminds me. So I think we do that. So I was like, oh, just FYI, like people praise you sometimes, Eric, just so you know. It's just Schrijver thing for whatever reason, you know. The scribers will just withhold the compliments.
Yeah.
So no real thing, but I think it's almost a daily occurrence, especially in entrepreneurship and early days of practice and new life and new marriage. That there's so many dynamic things and times where something small you can let that draw you in the wrong spot. So yeah,
for sure. I just had something I was thinking about. And then I was like paying attention to you, and it escaped my mind.
I reckon it'll come back.
It'll come back. It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Anyways, it had to do with just seeing the best in yourself, and how did you in early practice? You have a high standard. Let's just start there. It's clear to see throughout this whole podcast that you have an incredibly high standard for yourself. And so do you think that that's what primarily contributes not celebrating, because you're comparing yourself to like essentially what your goals are, or, there's.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I don't know if my mannerisms and personality show the same. You could tell me otherwise, maybe from how much you know me. But some people, I guess, misjudge my competitiveness or ambition. I think for, some of my struggles, the things that, hey, just so you know, I'm a human being and I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out. But yeah, I recall after winning world championships, I was kind of like what's next idea. And one of my good buddies, he wrote in my journal, like, we effing won. For me, because he saw me journaling, like, what are you journaling about and stuff like that. And then he's like, let's celebrate. And I was like, okay. So and that was funny. That was funny for sure. But I guess I can have some intentionality. And actually this past week, we've got some issues going on. We have to find a new office space, and it's been tough in like a year in a new place and having to move already. But it is like it's been drawing at my energy, and I'm like frustrated with the advice I've been getting potentially, or what I've been giving myself, and really trying to have discernment about it. But anyways, it has taught me, I guess, many months longer than I wish I had taken, that I got to start prioritizing again, like high energy happiness, because you can be happy in the middle of anything. I remember having those long, hard rows where I would turn my cap upside down, rally cap, and start saying a bunch of stupid stuff just to try and hype myself up and have fun, despite the fact that my body is like shutting down on me, and you just sort of laugh about it.
Embrace the suck, as we
embrace the suck a bit. So I'm trying to do that a little bit more, and just be more positive, because it is a thing where it's like, oh yeah, you can be on a good trajectory, it can get knocked off course, but you're allowed to, I guess, allowing myself to get back on positive trajectory again. So anyways,
I saw a quote that it replays a lot in my head this past like month. And it was just like, I forget who said it, but it goes something like, he who sees his own potential knows no rest, or something like that, or has no peace, something like that, where you're like, if I had another chiropractor on here, Dr. Randy Kale, and he was talking about how he had a 24-hour chiropractic practice. Like, he had to register his practice as like a hospital, and he had to have a nursing staff, and he would go around. He would go back at 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. and go make his rounds and adjust people all day and all night. And I was talking with Fred about that, and I was like, for me, I told Fred this quote, the man who sees his potential knows no peace, at this point. Yeah. And I'm like, how could you hear that story? And then, the details are in there. I have a podcast with him if you want to listen to it, but you hear the story and you're like, how could you not want that? For me, that's what I think about for myself. I'm like, how could I not strive to do that? Nobody's doing that right now. Maybe there's a couple somewhere, someplace, but that would be so cool to just show that if somebody was under 24-hour chiropractic care, like what is possible with that. people would fly all over the world for that, that, and I don't know, it just seems like such an awesome thing.
That's interesting. I want to listen to that one. I had a patient who here, Newport guy, he's got a concierge doc and that like a medical doc there that was sharing about a similar spot. I forget the name of it, where people were under, like they would basically book themselves into the place and get multiple adjustments, chiropractic for a period of time. And we're seeing some amazing healing going on. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And I also love the fact that his concierge doc was into it and was like impressed by it. And I was like, that's amazing. Thinking outside the box, that's bigger thinking for sure. And also individual thinking, because we can take a lot of trying to replicate or, that's the thing that's interesting when you look in the chiropractic history. I haven't read all the green books, but I've read some of them, and that used to be infirmatory style chiropractic, right? So, and you're like, and people would get those healings, and you hear about the people that there's some chiropractic colleges that do the mission trips where they go fly to Fiji or like across sea and help like in third world country of sorts, and people are getting healed from things through chiropractic because people don't have those limits. We get bombarded with marketing here. People think that they're only going to make either they're going to make exorbitant claims on something and they're trying to sell everybody on it, but it's like, oh, is that the person though? Is that the person, or are you just saying like this happens sometimes with this? But then people have limited beliefs on what chiropractic is, and I'm like, all right, spinal cord. If there's obstruction, your brain cannot communicate with an organ system. If you have injury, then that is going to shut down your health. So we have to have a healthy spine for health as well. Does every and all issues come from the spine? No. But do you know what your spine looks like? Because I know that the physical that people have yearly, if they even go yearly, doesn't include a full spine x-rays, MRIs, to feel like, hey, do you have things that are problematic? So we're not performing the way that we could. So I love that guy's doing that. That's amazing. I just want to listen to it.
Yeah. Well, so he was doing this back, I think, in the 90s, in the 80s, 90s. Like it's a cool story for sure. And thankfully, I'll be helping him out. He's trying to come back and teach the world about chiropractic. He was telling me he's on his boat fishing with his grandkids, got a great big family. And actually he's like twice removed from BJ Palmer, because his dad used to work with what's the other guy's name? There was BJ Palmer, and then BJ Palmer's, there was a guy that worked with BJ Sherman.
Yeah.
And so and so his dad was working with Sherman. I forget Sherman's first name, but Dr. Sherman.
Yeah, so, like the name from the chiropractic college.
Yes. Sherman? Yes. Yeah. So anyways, I mean, he's got all these incredible stories about how chiropractic worked back in this day. And it's just amazing. I mean, you hear the story of Clarence Gonstead having a private landing strip, at his practice. I'm like, okay, we got to have that, and helicopters. Come on. If you're going to have planes, you got to have helicopters too. 24-hour ward with plane, helicopters, a world zone, it'd be so sick to run something like that, And
I think a big thing that pops up into my head, and maybe it's because it's something I'm trying to clear out, but there's a lot of unlearning you got to do. You got to clear out some of like the bad things that you've learned about limiting beliefs, right? Trash
in our own profession.
Beliefs in our own profession, as a single doc, as a patient, as somebody intaking a patient, the worst patient you're going to have is one that doesn't think they're going to get better. Then the worst thing you can do for them is like start them up on some sort of care. I like to tell people off the get-go, I'm not Jesus Christ reincarnate, and I'm not going to fix you in one adjustment. Like, we're going to spend a period of time taking care of your issue. And wouldn't you be the funniest person alive if you had been dealing with this issue for 15 years and I was going to fix it overnight for you. And you didn't do that
Yeah.
15 years ago, like
Yeah.
it takes time to heal, my friend. But let's start with maybe the subluxation between your ears, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you mentioned, like, all these people, there may be some ailments that could be attributed to one thing or another, but have you got your spine checked is the comment that you made. And I can't tell you, I mean, you take x-rays of everybody. I mean, what person, I think I've seen maybe one person come in from the street and actually have nearly perfect spine. I've only seen one. Like,
Yeah,
it just doesn't matter.
I had one person, perfect, x-rays, ideal spine model, like all the green lines. I'm like, great. Had some back pain because they did a ton of lifting, so their disc was compressed, so we did some decompression. But I'm like, you don't need to do a huge care plan to correct the spine. Like, if for people that don't know what that is, like the CBP approach is getting, like, it's basically like braces. Hey, you want ideal alignment of your teeth? You wear braces, and then you wear a retainer afterwards. Same thing with spine. We do some stuff with adjustments, exercise, and traction to get that happening. And it's amazing the healing that happens when people commit to a period of time that actually gets them to that correction, knowing the correction potential, etc. But yeah, I've had one like that, and then another guy that muscle tested 100% strong everywhere. And I was like, dude, you're just an absolute unit. This is amazing. And he's also like, looks like the person you would expect, like so strong and just, hey, I've never had a real injury before. And I was like, we don't need to x-ray you even. Like, you're just good. That's awesome. Yeah. Crazy. And it was not like just wanted to check it out. So I was like, well, we don't need to do this, but that's like, doesn't happen. I've never, it's the person you kind of are like, that guy looks like a freak, like Superman. And yeah, you do every exam beforehand. We're like, well, you're good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But it's uncommon. Just like
I mean, thousands.
Over half the population.
Thousands.
What's that?
I mean, thousands of people. Before you find that one, I mean, there's thousands of people that come in that are not.
Yeah, and
And even then, again, like you said, she had compressed discs. So even though the shape was great, she still had compression. I mean, it's just kind of hard to get away from.
Yep. No, the spine's essential. So if you want to optimize, it's a very big piece of the puzzle. So, yeah. I know, and I've actually, because I know we do some functional medicine here. We just trying to have a more focus again on the spine, because I'm seeing the importance of that, especially with like how much AI and people are going just to Amazon to try to and chat GPT to fix their ailments. It's honestly been, as a business owner, frustrating to even try to do as functional medicine at the moment. And I haven't, I guess, coached in it or anything specifically like how to run that. But so many people are outsourcing their health to the internet and the new thing of AI. So I'm like, I'm the business owner in me is like, I'm losing money carrying any stock of supplements, and I want to be competitive in my pricing, but I can't be when everyone's going to the suspicious world of Amazon supplements, which may or may not have what they include, say are in it anyways, and then it's frustrating. So we're doing a little bit more focus again on the chiropractic. That's one of the reasons for it. Plus, I feel like you become the jack of all trades, master of none, in a sense, where I'd love to build more on my funk med knowledge down the line. I've done a ton of courses, and it's amazing stuff, and I have a reason for that. Like, I had a mold biotoxin illness, SIRS, and that had a huge impact on my life, my brain health, all these different conditions that I had no answers for. And it's nice when from time to time you run into a patient who you suspect has a similar ailment and has been jumping around between different places, and you might have the answer for them and can push them in the right direction, which I think is important too. So
yeah. Well, totally, man. I mean, here's the deal too. how I was explained the relationship, not to say that any one is better than the other, because I think that there are situations where functional medicine can create a massive impact in a very short amount of time.
Sure.
And I mean,
Yeah.
chiropractic is the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, if somebody's got a terrible spine in the section of the parts of their organs that are connected to their spine, like digestion or whatever else, you may be able to take the world's greatest supplements, everything on, it's just the highest quality, all organic, whatever it is. But you don't have, you only got 50% of the function in your digestive system. Like, you're not going to absorb all the nutrients that are necessarily you're consuming, so where it's like, this is why it goes hand in hand. When I was working with Dr. Fogel, he does functional medicine and chiropractic. And when we were working there, we suggested, like, hey, we should try to get people on both. Like let's create a plan where, like, we just give everybody everything from day one, it's a rigorous plan because there's so much change. I mean, people are changing their diets like vastly, like you're going from like no alcohol, no coffee for a little while to like maybe a straight carnivore, or maybe they're doing an animal-based diet, not only carnivore, or maybe they're eating just straight vegetables for 10 days and doing a total detox based on blood work. Plus they're doing, the CBP chiropractic where they're in traction, and we hit them from every angle. And then we're helping them get in the gym and exercise and do other lifestyle changes, sleep well. And there was this, he still does this, but I'm just talking about our time there, where the results that people would get on their x-rays was exponential. It's like what would take 2 or like 6 months to happen, they were healing in 3, because we were giving them this like onslaught of functional medicine, and their body had the tools to be able to heal themselves. They had, whatever proteins, their digestion was working better. They were able to sleep better because they weren't digesting terrible food. They didn't know that they shouldn't eat late at night, or whatever it is. They're drinking more water because all the supplements require a certain amount of water. And we were just able to like go, all right, guys, we're going to teach you how to be as healthy as you can be right now. And it was amazing how quickly people just, all their inflammation, like all the pain that they were having, they're able to pick up their children, they're able to digest their food, they can go, they're hanging out with a new group of people that are having a high self-image and they're growing in their life, or their kids are doing X, Y, and Z, whatever it was really cool to see even their children start to come in less hyper, like the demeanor of the children, was better. They would get better grades in school. I mean, like, it's so amazing, being able to hit healthcare from all areas.
100%. And that's, I guess, where we're still doing some of that functional medicine, some basic neurology too, like new patient this week, where you give them some eye exercises as well, because every time their eye is going up to down on either side, it's shifting that nystagmus, and then being like, okay, well, yeah, we're doing the healing, but we do have a base amount of water, protein, and some supplements that are going to, give you the foundation. And if there's a missing point or a detox we need to do beforehand, I'm sure it's not to the level of like what Dr. Kyle's doing there, but I know how much better that is, and cost effective wise, it's a really good approach, because I can be like, hey, I'm not trying to overload you because we're not doing thousands of dollars of lab tests beforehand, right, but I see the value in, and I wish I could convince everyone, but I guess in my limits right now, we're like, okay, there's a certain amount of cost that you want to put towards your healthcare, and then starting up right now. So yeah, we do a foundation of like, here's, probably the best 3 supplements for you as a base. And then depending what else we get from an exam, we might have somebody do one of our detox protocols before starting up, because of that importance. So I love hearing, and it's great for you to shout on top of the mountain the importance of like, hey, yeah, don't just do one thing at a time. I have some patients you have to convince of that because they have crazy chronic problems and they only want to do one thing at a time. It's like you might not get there doing one and then the other and then the other, but why not package it together, like you're saying, and make the difference because you've had failed surgeries at this point. So you're stepping back into conservative care. We got to hit conservative care hard, So
right. Well, yeah, totally, man. I mean, here's the thing. This is what's so cool about what we learned with Dr. Fred is understanding people and being like, okay, well, some of the people who are wanting to take it one step at a time, it probably feels one of a few things. Either that it's overwhelming or maybe they don't understand why they would need to do more, or they have a lack of trust in you, not because you're not trustworthy, but because they've seen so many people and they're still trying to find a solution, So I know for me, what helped me have people see that it was a benefit to just go for it all the way was figuring out which one of those things it was and just talking about it. You know what I mean? Because when someone understands it or they feel understood, I mean, you're super, like you said earlier, you're super genuine. You could see that everywhere. I mean, you're honest, you're Tim, you're not trying to be someone else. So there's no reason for somebody not to trust you. It doesn't mean that doesn't happen because of their own experience, but it has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? Which is cool. So, then the next question becomes like, all right, well, how do we take it to the next level and get this person, well, hey, is it valuable to you to like, how soon do you want to get better? Like how soon do you want to have this change? Because, we can pick a few options and maybe you start off on a slower option. If you feel good, we'll ramp you up. Sometimes people just want the choice between the two. And then because they feel like they have the choice, they're like, let's just go for it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This makes it feel easier.
Yeah, it's a good call because that's like, oh man, you hate to see somebody not succeed. Like,
totally.
It's especially in practice where like, hey, you have to convince them to maybe do more than they wish because, I have plenty of people that understand what's going on, but some of them are like, oh, they want everything for in one go, like you're going to fix them with one adjustment and one supplement that they can take once and not do a protocol of any sort. Yeah. But there's also, you're spot on with being able to help people break through those limiting beliefs or understanding where,
what's the lifestyle they're going to have at the end of it, really.
Yeah. Like understand, hey, you have a goal, right? What would you do to achieve the goal? Yeah. And then if they're like, nothing, then you got to change your goal. Person, just FYI, you can't have an ambitious goal if you want to continue doing the stuff you're doing that's wrecking you right now. If you're not going to change your diet and start exercising, you do not get to have that goal. Sorry to tell you,
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You don't get to lose weight and eat Krispy Kremes all day long.
Yeah. It's and you're gonna feel all the more better because you did something that was hard to get there, and it's gonna help you later on too. So no, it's right, and that's where you can't rush the relational part of starting with patients. Hey, just meet them and try to get to know them, and we're working on that just in the office in general right now, where we have the task of trying to get people better and then them to stay on track. I can't, if I'm suggesting that I see them 3 times a week for a period of time, then the front desk are like, we're seeing them 3 times a week. And yes, that is the ideal. That's what the science shows is going to be the best, because can't have them, get them all in alignment and then they forget about it for 6 days until I see them next. They're not going to develop the habit they need to, and the neurology is not going to get on board. They're spending more time in their bad postures. They're not going to correct as well. So the team knows that stuff, but then we're also like, hey, we have a human being that maybe going through some stuff. So we have to have some understandings, because
Yeah.
especially the people, the more messed up somebody is, their mentalities can be harder to shift. So we have to give them more and more grace, which initially I was frustrated by, but then you really start to get it and be like, and then the more you dive and spine geek in and you look at their x-rays, you're like, of course this person's a little bit like, of course this person's going to be a little bit difficult, from time. I can only imagine what they feel like. So that's
oh my God. Yeah. So get this story. Yesterday I was on the GHD, where you're bending forward and you're coming back, doing the back extensions. Throwing in a little rotation in there so I can get my transverse abdominis working a little bit, get some of these side extenders, obliques.
Beach season, right?
Yeah. And I came up and I went to go rotate and I hit my ulnar nerve so hard on that the bar that comes out like to help yourself up. Yeah. Oh my God, brother. I hit it so hard. I was like, I just kind of like shook it off for a second, but then like, it was like, and then it felt like everything went numb and I was like, huh. And then immediately after it was like, and then it burned like a hot iron, my whole, from these fingers here, it was like searing and I was like, it was terrible.
Yeah.
But I felt so bad in that moment. I realized that this is what people with like sciatic or neuropathy or radiculopathy, they're feeling that burning all the time coming out of their neck or their low back. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, it's so terrible. So, you
imagine meeting somebody new at that time. You're like,
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, like, I'm saying this because this is what, like, I think about when I want to understand people in front of me and the patients, is because somebody, as you said, you look at their spine and you're like, man, they got a lot of stuff going on. You could see just by looking at somebody, no x-rays, if they're inflamed or not. You just look at their face. You know what I mean? You could see it very easily. Yeah. And you understand, like, man, I understand what you're going through, and it depends on how quickly you'd like this to stop. And most people want everything to stop right now. And you're just like, all right, you just got to build that picture. Like, hey, most of the time this works, in X amount of time with somebody like a spine like yours. This is typically what we see. If you want it to go way faster, these are the things that you need to do. So I'm just curious, how quickly did you want this to resolve itself? Because, and then it just comes out to choice. People like to have a choice, and typically they pick something. You're surprising sometimes the people that pick the fast option when they feel like they have the choice, Yeah. And this is like coming into your heart. Like you said, you get this spine geek and you're like, man, I totally get it. And then you have compassion after that, or I have compassion when I see somebody's spine. I'm like, man, there's some spines I've seen and I tear up just looking at it. I'm like, this is terrible, and then I've taken an x-ray and then I'm just sitting there looking at this, beautiful person. And I'm like, they have no idea what's happening inside of them. They just go, this hurts a little bit. And then what's coming, especially when they walk out the door and, maybe it was something I said, or, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but, I still would take responsibility for the things that I'm letting people understand, because you understand what's going to happen 5-10 years from now. Like, that person is going to be in a wheelchair, immobile,
I know I broke down in the office a couple months ago. I saw a patient of mine who, hey, dude's got Parkinson's, and, the tests were, doctors don't know what they're talking about, and can you just help me? And I'm like, this is something that you need to be on medications for, that part of it. I can help you with your posture. and some of that being so shifted over, you're putting way more stress on your nervous system, so we can start to improve some of those symptoms. But you also need to do the things that your other specialists are talking about doing. So do some muscle testing after adjustments. He's moving around better, he's feeling excited. Yeah, like, I don't need anything else. No, that is not what I'm telling you. Make sure you're listening to those other people. And he's feeling better, so he's out of there, comes back in a few months ago, and oh man, it was so hard to see. He was just so much worse, still saying, I'm not taking medications, but it's like, you could have slowed that down. And I'm breaking down, because I have a uncle with Parkinson's in my family too, and you're sort of thinking about him, and I'm like, I wonder what he's doing or not, and how are these people's limiting beliefs are getting in their way. And then now I feel accountable for the fact that, like you're saying, that person that may not have started care, which I've had that too, like a young boy with scoliosis, and he's not going to do something. And I was like, typically that progresses in the wrong direction, just FYI. So it's gravity is going to win. If you're already, you're supposed to be in like a peak state and you're shifting, gravity's only going to like bend you further, right? And hey, it's tough to get my son up here. Financially this or that. And I'm like, you don't want to be stuck in a system that has got in store what it has got installed. There's a reason we do what we do. And it takes time, yes. But you have one spine for the rest of your life. Your son is very young. And, for the guy with the Parkinson's, like, man, like, you're just on a bad trajectory, and it's really tough for you. But also now your spouse becomes your caregiver, and that's really tough for them too. So yeah, I feel that. I feel that fully, where I just want to get better at being able to connect with people, so that less people are, even if they're not starting care with me, they're going to do something. They're going to do the right thing. Yeah. So I want to have an amazing referral network too, so you can send people to others that are going to help, which I think, like, the CVP directory for chiropractic stuff, but then you hear some amazing stuff. So yeah.
Dude, for real. Man, it sucks, huh? I know. You see, about the Parkinson's guy, I mean, it's just like, hey, at some point, maybe there's this aspect of like alignment with him. I've been learning a lot from Grant Cardone. I've been in business school with Grant Cardone, and I've been learning a lot about just agreeing with people. So maybe this would help you out, because it's been helping me out a lot this last month, of just agreeing, even if getting to an agreement, even if you don't see the same thing. Like if your opinion is not the same, having an agreement is the most important step to getting somebody to make a choice that benefits them. Where, like, I'm sure you may have done this. I don't know the interaction you've had with the Parkinson's guy, but as I'm listening to your story, the guy doesn't want to take medication. And I would say, hey, you know what? I agree with you. I wouldn't want to take medication either. Because then it validates his core value, because he came back twice talking about not wanting to take the medication. So that's his highest value. Yeah. I don't want to take medication. And you go, okay, well, hey, you know what? I don't know. I can't guarantee you that what is going to happen. I know that chiropractic can make an incredible impact. I also know that based on your x-rays and your posture, that it's 100% that your nervous system is being impacted, and that your Parkinson's is getting worse every day because of your posture. And I know that I'm the guy that can help you, and there isn't somebody else around you that's going to help you better than I can. So I do know that. And I do know that your goal is to not be on medication. What would it, this is what we need to do in order for that to even be possible. This is what has to happen. I can't tell you right now to stop your medication, but if that's your goal, then this has to happen. We got to bring your head back 2 inches, because you're so far back. So if that's what you want, this is how we start. So you're going to come here 3 times a week. If you want it done faster, you can come here 5 times a week, whatever it is. But I feel you on that one too. I was just talking to somebody with Parkinson's, and I feel the same way. But having that agreement is at least to get you a foot in the door. And then, you can talk about, hey man, I don't think it would be the best idea to stop it right now, but let's give it a couple of months and figure out where we're at then. Even if you know in your heart, but because you don't know, brother, here's the thing. This is the spiritual aspect of chiropractic where you move the bone, God does the healing. Hey, if you're a Christian, there's plenty of Christian texts that states that we have all this power that Jesus had and more. That was the message that he's, said a couple of times. And why limit ourselves to that? It's not that how do you know it's not possible for you to help him not have any symptoms of Parkinson's? Unless you try.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that that's an area has extreme benefit. Having just done like the advanced series for CBP, we went over a lot of that neurology and like fascinating studies they did with like the dogs that they, had a lesion in the spinal cord, and some of them got the extension cast and other ones moved around and mobile and never healed because they kept opening up that tissue, the spinal cord, and they kept having the neurological issues versus the ones that got an extension and had full healing of those spinal lesions. Right. And they did the one medical doctor that ribboned people like between they like attached ribbons to people's spine to their occiput with like screws and had them in extension and cure and had like full recovery of a lot of neurological conditions by putting people in that extension. It's like, hey, cool. We don't have to put screws in your skull and ribbons between your vertebra to do that. You can do CBP,
Yeah.
So, I agree. It's like, that's a part of it. That's a frustrating, especially in the new doc stage, is having those intense cases where I'm like, if somebody slips through the cracks, it's another area where the next person they potentially meet or decide that there's no hope for them, that because I didn't make the right connection, say the right thing, they decide not to do the thing that gets them corrected. Oh man, I feel that sucks, because you're in healthcare to help people because that's like a priority value. And then people come in and feel like you're trying to sell them or something like that. Like that was I got into healthcare because I love selling. Like, no, it's because I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it would have been much better career choices to do if that was the priority, So, right. But yes, I do need you to invest your time into starting up some care here, time, money to get into care. And we don't run a charity, and nobody's paying me to live outside of this business, but I know there's extreme value in what we do. So trying to connect with people, it's so important.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah. I was just talking with his name's Dr. Jared Whalen, and he was telling me a story that when he first got out of chiropractic school, him and his partner created like a box in the wall chiropractic where literally they just put a donation box, and people would just donate whatever they thought the chiropractic care was, and he was just like totally failed. And this guy is like, right now he runs 7 practices. He's got a vision for 300. I mean, the dude's a rock star chiropractor. Yeah. So, he really had the best intentions. And, I know this topic is a little maybe off what we're at, but maybe not. It doesn't matter. It's all good. Like the idea that exchanging money for services is such a fascinating topic in our country, because there are people who believe that healthcare should be a social construct where like we pay taxes and people just have an incredible healthcare system. There are definitely countries where they see it working better than others, and there are countries that they have that system and it's not working all that great. We have a very unique healthcare system, maybe other than New Zealand kind of shares pharmaceutical as an industry or pay for service. But I feel like even in the countries that do have socialized healthcare, there are private physicians, medical doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists. Like there are private specialists, and they charge money because of the results that they get can be exponentially different than somebody who's working through the government. Or like, I have VA healthcare because I was in the military. There's no way I would ever choose to really go to a VA doctor. It's not to say that all of them are terrible, because I'm not making that claim. But to trust that the person I get is going to be incredible, there's no way. It's just, I would rather seek out a specialist as somebody who can help me. And then the argument comes up, or the discussion comes up of, well, what value is too valuable? Is it too much of a investment for the average person? At what point does the care come out of the range of affordableness? But it's like, well, is there really there's a scale? Like, well, there's either affordable care or there's specialized care. And the chiropractic that you practice is highly specialized care, predictable through tons of research. Even if you're a new doctor, you follow these protocols, you're going to get the result. You know what I mean? It really is. It's measurable. First of all, that's the major aspect. You could measure your progress.
Yeah.
Not all chiropractors are quantifiably measuring the progress. They're qualitatively measuring progress. But like Fred and I were talking the other day, where feeling is not the sense of healing. How you feel doesn't equate health. It doesn't mean just because you don't feel sick doesn't mean that you don't have a body full of disease. There's the reason why people end up with stage 4 cancer, but they had no idea because they feel fine. Well, what is happening is that you've conditioned your nervous system to be used to being sick. You could take an x-ray of somebody and there could be all kinds of different liver stones or bladder stones or cancer all over their body, and they have a smile on their face because they got no idea. Their nervous system isn't even registering they're sick, it would be happening like that because they're sick. Why would you have a perfectly functioning nervous system? Why would your brain or your body tell you you're sick if it's that sick and injured, right? Or inflamed,
It's a funny human thing with that, I guess, too, where it's like, I think most people understand the adage of like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But it's like nice to know, but not most people don't take that action, right? Yeah, and then as a healthcare provider, have that understanding too, and know that, and be able to show it, like you were talking about the measurables, and being like, it's like, we can do something about this. Like, I am going to give you, and it's the communication part where, and coaching, I guess, to be like, this is the reason that I need you to do these exercises at home while you're doing this first phase of care, when we're talking about correction, and then, hey, how do you retain that? What kind of stuff do you need to maintain at a lower frequency in order to maintain those changes that are going to be beneficial for your overall health? And why is not every single person that you love also under care like this, knowing what you now know, right? So
right. Yeah. Well, for sure, dude. And then so I'd love to hear your opinion on, like, what do you feel? You come from Canada, so there's socialized healthcare in Canada, right? Yeah, there's
you would get some, so chiropractic, you would get some insurance benefits for, but it wasn't full. Yeah.
And the insurance is like standard across everybody?
I believe so. I mean,
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
No worries. Okay, so then what do you think, like, you charge for your service. I mean, most chiropractors charge for their services.
Yeah.
I mean, most everybody who's running a business does. So
American specialty health ruins it for everybody.
American what?
American Specialty Health, Ash, you know?
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh,
Yeah. Hey, every chiropractor, if you're not, we'll pay you nothing to do nothing and don't do anything else. So yeah, it's like, yeah, no, the insurance system in America sucks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for that. Amazing for emergency care. I was like, yes, just like your car insurance.
Yeah.
If you get in
Awesome.
an accident, your car is going to help out, or your car is going to get fixed up. But if you need to go get your oil changed, or you drove over a nail with your tire and you need to replace it, or your kid scratched your car or something like that, like that's on you. Like you want your
Yeah.
car to stay in tip-top shape. Like outside of an accident, you got to stay invested in your body too. So
Yeah, it's true, dude. Well, here's the thing too. I mean, so this is where like the value of what we do and what you do in your practice far exceeds like what people are going to get in other chiropractors' offices or their medical doctors' offices or whatever else, because you're able to take x-rays and see these things. You're able to measure progress. You're able to improve somebody's quality of life, which is really the most important aspect to the people we're helping. They don't care about degrees. They don't care about their spinal cord. They don't care. They just want the burning to go away. They want to pick up their grandkids, like speaking to their highest values and understanding that, overcoming an objection of, finances, sometimes there truly is a financial gap. A lot of times people can be resourceful, and also if somebody really wants something, like they'll find a way to get it, and where it's like a challenge, just as a human being, to be able to really remove our own desires for the patient and understand what it is that they desire most. Like, hey, like I need you to do these things because this is going to get you, the curves in the cord. This could be my doctor mind being like, I just want you to have these curves and cord because I know that equals this amount of health. But for them, they're like, man, I just want to pick up my grandkids. And then this is why having goals and visions, bringing this all the way back to like the beginning of our podcast, is setting the goals to be something that goes farther than even picking up their grandchildren, because you're an incredible chiropractor. If we focus on goals that are short term as chiropractors, we help people achieve them. That I just want my headaches to go away. Well, if they need 30 to 60 visits to put a curve back into their neck and their low back because of how jacked up it is, maybe after 5 visits, they don't have a headache anymore because you could take their translation out. Yeah. So then, they leave. And this is the whole aspect of our profession where like the average patient visit is like per chiropractor is like 8 to 10 or 12 or something really low, because we can focus on short-term goals, pain goals, where it's like, well, how do we really gather this vision? How do we inspire vision for a patient in their life? When it's like, sometimes it's hard for me every day I'm writing goals down twice a day. And I'm still like, I know maybe some of the big parts of my vision, but like trying to like narrow it down on what happens this week or today in order to get that, it's like, man, it's so challenging. So then the skill to be able to do that in a 10-minute conversation is just, it can be a bit more of a challenge to figure out.
Yeah, it can. And it depends too how much somebody is willing to become vulnerable to share those things. And some people, I love the people that have a strong mindset where they almost assume like, I'm going to heal from this super quick. I don't want to break them down then and say it's going to take too long, but I'm like, keep that mindset, because that's the most important thing. And let's see what's really going on here. And then let's talk about the mechanics of it and what's needed there. But yes, you're going to heal, like, for sure. That's awesome. Like, keep that mindset. That's huge, because it's a lot easier to work with somebody that assumes they're less broken than they are, but at least has like a positive mindset, than somebody that maybe has a little something, I was gonna say a little boo-boo on their finger, and they're like, it's the death of me. You're like, shoot, yeah, the person with a really jacked up spine from multiple car accidents, I'd almost put my money on them to feel better than the boo-boo that thinks that that's catastrophize it themselves, right? So yeah.
True, dude. True.
So yeah, no, but it's very true. I think it's an interesting part that is not part of chiropractic practice. We don't go to business school as a chiropractic provider. All of that communication, it's, I guess, part of like, oh yeah, we just try to gather information. But if you're just staring at your screen, taking notes, and not realizing, hey, there's a human being here, and start to realize that the goals of what they're trying to achieve is important, and their specific goals should really direct care versus what I want. Because what I want from everyone is like, okay, can I get a perfect spine and perfect chemistry in the body with like the Funk Med, and then also can I make sure that your mind is very strong? So the psychological part of things. So if they have those three, amazing. Achieve what your purpose that God has set out for you in life. Let's go. That's that. If it was as easy as like, yes, Dr. Tim, let's do it. Like, what do I need to do? Sign me up, and let's create some good habits here that I can ingrain for myself for the rest of my life, so I can achieve the big, hairy, audacious goal, whatever you want to say, like the things that I've written down. If you're multiple goals in a day, you're achieving those things because there's nothing standing in the way of you mentally or physically, and like including structure and chemistry. So you can go and achieve those things. Like, how cool is that? That's what everyone should be able to do in life. But then some people limit themselves. Some people are limited because they don't get in front of somebody, a provider, that either the provider, I think sometimes they themselves, through schooling, whatever reason, they end up with a limiting belief. And then they're like, I should only see this person 8 times because their insurance says 8 visits, even though there's no studies showing that that's going to be beneficial for them, right? So so it's like, no, you need to provide and create enough time and effort for them to achieve those successes. And like, I'm I would say humble enough to know I don't have the perfect situation sorted yet, but that's why we call it a practice. We're doing the best we can. I hate it when patients don't achieve the success that we're trying to, we're striving. But also, I'm super stoked when people get better faster, and you have those funny like times where I had a patient who was like, man, I've tried smoking. I've tried quitting smoking. She didn't even talk to me about this during the initial exam. She was like, oh yeah, your nervous system is under a lot of tension. We're looking over the x-rays. After her first adjustment, we do some CBP stuff. She's like, I went to my car, lit up a cigarette, and just like threw it away. And I've been a smoker for like 8-10 years, and it's the first time I've given it up. And she didn't tell me till a month later. And she's like, and then still checking in, has not smoked since. And I was like, I don't put it on my website that it's a quitting smoking place, but yes, your head is like shit out of place. Your nervous system's under a lot of tension. You're doing something to try to like stimulate and you're putting some sort of band-aid on it. And crazy, I mean, I didn't have the, okay, if I do this move here, you're gonna stop smoking forever. And then I put my name on it, and it's trademarked now. But it's amazing what chiropractic does. So we're definitely standing on the shoulder of giants to be able to do the things we do and have that success. And I mean, tons of patients that have walked in that's not going to be their journey. That's not going to be the amazing thing that's fixes, but when you look at these crazy rotations and because they're translated and their body has to compensate, and then wow, your sinuses are blown up, like, and you look at old pictures of that patient, you're like, this has been years that their head's been like shifted over, and C2 sinuses are involved, and you start getting that head translation back. You retake the X-ray, it's looking more lined up, and they're like, the sinus problems, I can breathe at night again. You're like, praise God, that's awesome. I'm just just doing what the mechanics tell me to do.
For sure, dude. Okay,
Changes their life
for you. I got a good question for you. Understanding yourself. You obviously have incredible visions and goals, and I'm sure you have heard just incredible stories about people healing in chiropractic. If it's a two-part question.
Yeah.
What is the vision that you have for yourself in chiropractic? Like what are you striving towards? If you took away all of your own limiting beliefs, like, being able to heal with one adjustment, somebody, I don't know, whatever it is, like, if you just took away any limiting belief that you had, like, what would be the vision for yourself? And the second part of the question is, what would Caitlin's vision for you be?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I just think of like, I guess if we're talking about limiting belief, removing limiting beliefs, they're just like Solomon's wisdom and having the answer for my patients, and just that certainty to know what the root cause is with absolute authority, the right thing to do, so that you're consistently getting people in the door to trust you to take them through to the finish line. Because I think the biggest part of it for me right now is actually convincing people to do what they need to do to get there. So obviously there's a part of my own way that I communicate with somebody where I become the roadblock on them starting the path, because maybe it's something I said, and now they're not going to commit to, a phase of care of 36 visits that is going to put them on the right trajectory and is going to get them to refer their family and friends, because they care so much about their loved ones that they also want to remove any barriers they have. So I know that there'll be structure and chemistry and the mental component to it. So that's part of well-designed, like having it be wellness by design. It's going to be, the tiered approach that we continue to grow with my own like leadership in a role, I guess, as the owner, and having employees and like people like that I have a lot of love for that are part of it, and just having more confidence in growing that. I think Caitlin, her goal, she loves spending some time with me, but she's my biggest cheerleader. She was biggest cheerleader for sure. So she's super supportive and wants to see me be happy, and probably enough time to spend with her husband as well too, though. So
Yeah.
I want to heal some big things for sure.
Yeah. Nice, dude.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, brother, we've been on for an hour and 45 minutes.
Hasn't felt like it.
I know. It's good, dude. It's cool to talk,
Definitely.
Yeah, man.
You got some good questions.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate you saying that. I try to do my best. We're going to be releasing probably like eight, maybe 9 podcasts by the end of the day today. I've been sitting on them for quite some time, but there's so many incredible ones. I'm trying to do my best to be a good ask intelligent questions that are, not that led us like more into your world than anything, you know?
Yeah. So what's your goal with the podcast then?
So my goal, I wanted to have, I have a list of 100 chiropractic podcasts. And my goal is to reach out to all of them to see if they'd like to be guests on this podcast. I think that what it's turned into is me really just hearing stories about chiropractic that are just insane. Like I feel like it's the most inspiring vehicle for me to network with doctors that I've never met before, and to just hear like they know stories about chiropractic. It feels like my duty to just compile all these stories of miraculous parts of health, because you know, in third world countries you hear of people with all the elephantitis or you know, um, just incredible diseases that people should be dying. Fred talks about HIV patients that are, you know, maybe 6 foot tall, 90 pounds, literally just straight bones. And then after 6 months of chiropractic care, they're like fully back to their regular weight. All their white blood cell counts are down. They're expressing zero symptoms of HIV or cancer. You know, they have people spontaneous remission, you know, like, we can't claim that as what happens because it's not always as what the medical profession or the chiropractic board would consider as predictable. But I think that the point I'm trying to make is that people and chiropractors alike don't understand the power of chiropractic. I feel like they don't. These stories are like Greek mythology of how it used to be back in the day. You know, Dr. Randy Kale talks about volume 18 of the Green Books, where there's 5,000 cases of all these incredible diseases that people have and how they were essentially cured, you know, or they went away. You know, we have to watch what we say. You can't cure these things, but whatever it is, but it's kind of retarded. But you know, the point of this podcast serves a few purposes. One, for me to meet as many chiropractors as I can. I feel like it's my purpose to unify our profession because, you know, I love good CBP. I love great AK. You know, there are other aspects of chiropractic that I'm learning about that I don't know. You know, there's aspects of chiropractic that are more esoteric and non-physical. But I think that there are people that maybe that would help them initially better at first. Maybe they have some sort of trauma. Maybe they got some sort of this or that where, you know, I believe that we do have the power to heal each other with energy. I don't think it's as predictable or repeatable as a process like CBP, but I do think it's possible. So, you know, they talk about frequencies or like, you know, monks back in the day healing each other with bells and sound. I mean, we have laser, which is essentially just focused light. It's a frequency. You put a laser beam in someone's body and then there's tissue heals. That's crazy. You have an electromagnetic system in your body. Magnetism is frequency. Electricity in your nervous system. Like there is a physics component and frequency component to healing. Yeah. And if we're touching each other, then we're creating a circuit between us as the providers and a patient. So it feels to me like there's a sense of healing that has been removed from maybe times hundreds of years ago where, you know, some people could be prayed over and they have spontaneous healing. So I think that this podcast is for me to learn all things that are possible. So I want to have a practice, you know, where, you know, they talk about BJ Palmer's practice where people literally died in the waiting room because the ailments that they had were so severe, they literally died waiting to be adjusted. I want to practice like that. I want to see that. I want to see sick people like that. And I think the way that happens is by my frequency resonating and attracting somebody to me. Like my frequency's got to be all over. And I think that understanding everything that's possible as much as I can and being like the valedictorian of all aspects of healing would allow my brain to just connect with this person. And like you're saying, you know, how do we connect with somebody to where they're committed to their care? Well, if I'm raised my vibration to the highest level and my understanding where, like you're saying, where I have certainty and confidence that I also don't necessarily have to know how it works, but just that it's possible, and to trust that God is moving through me. Maybe I don't have to know everything, but just because somebody comes to me and through me, then I don't have to know the answer, but they can still heal. You didn't know that this woman was going to quit smoking. You just adjusted her, but something moved through you to her, and she made a life-changing decision unbeknownst to you. So you didn't know how, but that's the point, is you don't have to. If you're just certain that these things are possible, then you don't have to know how it works. You could just trust God. And I think that this podcast really brings people who have faith, and it's not about religion. I don't claim a religion. You know, I've learned about all kinds of different religions, and I think that personally, whatever you believe is true for you. And I think that, to me, my personal belief is that's how God shows up for people. If you're Hindu, if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, whatever, if you're a Buddhist, then God shows up for you in exactly how you want him to. He could be judgmental towards sin. He could see no fault in you. You could just, if it's Shinto, then like this piece of paper and these supplements, they all have their own spirit and their own energy. Like whatever it is, can be true. So this podcast is meant for me to unite our profession and for us to inspire like more possibility in our ability as providers to heal others, as well as provide inspiration for patients to understand that their bodies can heal in a way that they're not being taught in a massive way. You know, this is the contribution to the world, to show everybody that we're more powerful than we were told.
Yeah. So one of the things you said there, that's beautiful. It's a good vision. I like what you talked about with unity. It did remind me of a Bible study that we've been working through, Philippians 1:12-18. And he talks about, so it's Paul's letter to the church in Philippi. And he talks about how basically the church, there's some divide, and some people are preaching about God for good and others for their own benefit. And I see that on, I guess in chiropractic too. There's some disunity that can occur. But Paul then says, anyway, it's talked about, God's being praised. That's awesome. So I think that's great, not just in unity, like as you're diving in, trying to get all these chiropractors in, or getting all these chiropractors in top 100 podcasts from chiropractic in, bring some unity. And then just in healthcare in general, because I think that's an amazing referral network we can tap into as well as chiropractors, is just a harmony with health, because, you know, the public as a whole understands where sometimes businesses and profits are getting in the way of people's optimal health. And, chiropractors have been notorious for fighting that system some. So love that. And then there's also people of whatever types, medical doctors too, that also have seen the areas of lack, I guess, within that system. And then you can make powerful relationships with those as well. And some people just don't know yet one way or another. And I know I'm always learning. So yeah, that's great. Who knows? Maybe you'll have some medical doctors in here at some point.
Yeah, that's the goal. We had a nurse, but we had to take it down because her job saw it, which was great. Hey, at least it was getting out there.
Oh.
And they were like, you got to take this down. Yeah, you got to take this down. But no, I do want to reach out with medical doctors as well. I mean, here's the deal. COVID was a blessing, I think, because the entire world started to question what was really happening. Regardless of where people fell spiritually or politically or whatever, like everybody was kind of given a side eye, like, wait, what the fuck is happening right now? And, medical doctors too, like I've had a conversation with Bella, and we were talking about, healthcare in the United States. She has people in her family, they want to be nurses, and we have conversations about health, just trying to figure out what really is going on. You know what I mean? Everybody's very polite to each other. It's not like cutthroat or anything like that, which I appreciate, because we're all trying to figure out, like, the point is to have healthy people. And we all understand that there's everybody's nuanced a bit, so you can't generalize for everybody. For the most part, there are some things that are absolutely true. You got a spine and nervous system, and if you got subluxations, like, your body doesn't function at 100%. That's a fact. I mean, this is why somebody gets paralyzed if they cut their spinal cord like that. It don't work no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we talk about, vaccination or health or how we do things. It's like trying to figure out, how do you trust? Well, in this country, we are able to charge people for designer drugs when it's chemically the same formula as a generic drug. Mm-hmm. So, I think that people just forget that the pharmaceutical industry in this country is a business. And like Gucci, they're paying for a cotton t-shirt. The cotton's no different than the cotton t-shirt that you get for $4 at Walmart. It's just the brand that you put. It's the culture around the label of the cotton. Mm-hmm. So, there's this aspect of, well, you could say the same thing for supplements. Absolutely. Supplements are totally, they're not regulated in the same way that pharmaceuticals can be regulated. I'm not advocating for either one in this very moment, but I'm just saying that we have these conversations that there are incongruencies for people who believe both aspects of natural healthcare and pharmaceuticals.
That's a fascinating one with supplements, where people are like, this is better, activated charcoal than other activated charcoal. And I was like, well, if you're basing it all off of the study that was done on activated charcoal, what was that? Was that a brand of activated charcoal, or it's the raw ingredient? And then knowing whether or not that ingredient has weird fillers in it, or actually has the ingredient in it in the amount that they claim it is, that's really where it's at. So, I mean, I know for myself, supplement wise, we just use supplements that you can know and trust. And there's so many different supplement companies out there. And I know the ones that do spend a ton of money on marketing to people, they typically are the ones that people end up taking, or they'll learn something from an ad on a supplement and then go to Amazon and buy the cheapest available thing, hoping and praying, or being ignorant to the fact that it may not even have that in it.
Right. Well, this is the whole thing, right? So this is the whole point, where it's people now, there's distrust towards health. Yeah. People want, but the benefit of it is that people want health.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like, it can be
sharks in the water.
There's some sharks in the water. and some incongruencies. You know, not every chiropractor is the same. Not every medical doctor is the same. You know, there are incredibly benevolent medical doctors that actually stick to like, hey, you know, if you don't want to have a stroke, you need to exercise and eat healthy, and this is how you do it holistically. There's absolutely medical doctors out there who promote that sort of health. And there, you know, as we see in our profession and in the medical profession, like, you're not trained to be a business owner. So if you then choose to work for somebody else, then you're basically at the mercy of how that person is running their business for the most part. If that business thrives on promoting a certain brand of supplement because they get a bigger kickback or whatever it is, like, that happens. You know, it's like, so then again, you go, okay, well, this whole point was to talk about the point of the podcast is to create unity and to create awareness of what is happening, and to be essentially unbiased but truthful about the where we are in healthcare. You know, like, to not skirt away from the fact that, hey, there are incongruencies that people recognize and are true no matter where you look. So how do you filter through them is really the point. Chiropractic, fortunately, CBP chiropractic, there's a way to measure results. I know that these knee, chest, upper cervical doctors also take x-rays and they measure their results. They have a little bit different of a philosophy of what's happening, but a lot of those doctors tend to be spiritual. They follow a certain religion, and they're very convicted in that. And they also love BJ Palmer, and they follow the green books because what that man did worked. Hold on one sec. My cat's and he recorded results. He also worked with medical practitioners. So there's the unity, I think, that we can have with medicine as well. I hope that this podcast puts me in the right room of people to create a healthcare system that impacts people all over the world.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think that's great. I think that's a cool part of chiropractic, just an upper cervical. I've referred out to an upper cervical specialist before too, because I was like, hey, based off of like a period of care, I think that's the route you need to go on next. So I'm like, I'm not going to just have you start some more. Let's get you in the right spot. So
yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I love that unity.
Hell yeah, man. We got to come together. That's the way. That's where we get the power, baby.
Yes.
Yeah. Fred the other day was telling me, you know, we have some visions and goals that I'm going to honor what we talked about, but just to saying that not to tell everybody about all your goals all the time, you know. But that one's too good. Unify healthcare. Okay, it's not specific.
I do think that's interesting you say that, because I like to share my goals with people, and I recently was talking to my wife about that, and she's like, yeah, most of the big goals I put down, they were just for myself. So I don't think you need to keep everyone in the dark about everything, but I think there's definitely power in keeping it for yourself. So
yeah.
Thanks for sharing that one, though. I think that's almost like a mission statement for people to get behind, to talk about unification. So
right. I mean, exactly. I mean, you know, I share my big goals with people who I know put energy towards the big goal. You know what I mean? There's select few people where I could tell them anything that I'm doing, and they're putting energy towards making it happen. They're not having jealous thoughts or like anti-goal thoughts, you know, for me. So, I mean, it's getting around a good group of people is important too.
Yeah. Maybe just share your social security number and stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wrap it back to that,
you wouldn't want my bank account information because You could let me keep that. You could let me keep that. I got a little bit of work to do.
That's funny.
That's funny. So for any of you guys out there, the bank account, that's right. We're working on a different trajectory. I got big visions for that.
Good stuff.
That's funny.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for taking all the time today. We got a couple hours in. It was incredible, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. You got it.
Yes, sir. All right, bro. Peace.
Yeah.